Hello, everybody. You can hear me.
We're not ready.
But we'll
tune the music.
We'll pretend like we are and continue. All right. F5. I'll press play.
Wow.
Whoa. Hello, everybody. Hola. That's the extent of my Spanish. That and unos veces. That's it. That's all I can say. My name is Glenn. I am the product lead for .NET Platform. So that means the language, the compiler, runtime, libraries, all of the things that are .NET that aren't like Visual Studio and tooling and that part of the thing. And this is the one and only James.
Hola, me llamo James. En español poquito. That's about all I got. So my wife, fluent Spanish. She comes with me everywhere. Wherever we speak Spanish, which is many places. And I swear I will take more classes. That's my goal by the end of the year, is to come back next year and present 100%. No,
yeah, full Spanish talk next year. No. Heard it here first.
I was here, I think, 7 years ago, probably speaking on Xamarin and mobile technology. We've come a long way in a lot of different technologies. I specifically work on a developer community team inside of our developer division, helping developers be successful, building amazing applications, infusing their apps with AI, and taking advantage of the latest and greatest developer technologies. And we have so many amazing things really packed in for the next 60 minutes. I'm really excited about it.
Hopefully we'll make work.
Well, because when we kind of sat down, we're like, oh, what should we talk about? And we're like, I don't know what to talk about because build just happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We were thinking, like, what do we want to talk about? We've just done build. What do we want to bring here? And we said, well, we don't want to rehash things that people have seen. We wanted to give you something. And so what James and I did was just kind of pick. We like this thing, we like this thing over here, we like the bits that we thought were cool, that we really wanted to talk about for all of .NET. But we wanted to say, one thing that happens to me, because I work on the .NET team, is that if I don't say the name of a technology, it must be dead, and we must not be working on it anymore. So I want to begin by saying there's many, many things that we're not going to talk about today that are all on this slide, and that does not mean that we are not working on any of them. It just means that we've got, we're going to ship .NET 10 come November. Everything will be talked about there, okay?
And I know we're at a conference, but why not pitch another conference, which is completely free and online virtual, because we launched .NET, a new version of it, every November, the second Tuesday. And yes, .NET Conf 2025, you can RSVP. It's free online. Indeed. So save the date today. But yeah, we're going to pick out a bunch of cool, awesome stuff. And that's specifically how Glenn and I are working, because it's evolved a lot. In fact, if we gave the same exact presentation last month, it'd be different. Yeah. And that's the type of the world that we're living in. And I think that's really cool, because normally we would go and give a talk, and then a year later, we'd be like, oh, we'll just give that same talk and
update it a little bit.
Update 8 to 9. Not anymore, because everything is really changing, because how we develop is fundamentally different.
Indeed. And so, okay, so I wanted to start with a feature near and dear to my heart. So for a long time now, for many years, we have had this idea that .NET is amazing at building large, kind of complex systems. It is good. We know it can scale massively. We know that you can manage and have maintainable code bases in it. But it struggles a little bit when it wants to scale down to teach somebody how to write Hello World. Its approachability to getting a new person into the stack was not great. And so you've seen the evolution of us trying to make sure, among many things that we'll talk about, one of the things is trying to make sure that .NET is still approachable, still teachable, that if you have a new person, he comes straight out of college, you give him a computer, he's going to learn how to write C# for the first time, or you learn how to use some .NET language for the first time, that it feels nice. Feels good, and it doesn't feel like they've gone back a decade in technology or anything. And so you've seen global usings and all of these things, so that you can write a console application Hello World in C#. I would say as simply as any other language on the planet.
Yeah, but there's like a whole bunch of stuff, right? There's like a solution file and a project file and a bunch of settings that like no one cares about.
Right. So in .NET 10, we made it such that you can create a just single file, and then you can .NET run
That file.
hello.cs, just that file.
One file, nothing else.
Which
is that what
new.
you're telling me?
And so, yes, one file. And so I'm going to show you that today. The reason this came about, this application, is because I was actually trying to teach one of my wife's friends how I was helping them with some Python data science homework. And I realized when I was watching them struggle with things that there was no way that they would have been able to get into .NET or C#. And so I asked some folks to work on this feature kind of specifically for that goal. So we're going to make a new directory. We're going to make James loves monkeys.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. James loves monkeys. Right? Then I'm going to open VS Code. This is a WSL, so I'm on Linux here, even though I'm on Windows.
You're tunneled into a Linux machine.
Yeah, so I'm technically on a Linux machine here, although that detail is not important.
Or is it?
Or, I don't know. So then we'll make app.cs.
Wow.
And then in here, we write console.writeline. What's a good monkey?
Sebastian. That's Sebastian right here.
Sebastian, like that?
Close enough.
Sebastian's app. That sounds cool. I like that. Thank you, Copilot. Okay, so now we can, no, don't open that. We can go in here and we can say .NET run app.cs, right? And now, close that. No, Sebastian's app, right? So,
wow, take a moment.
Amazing.
Magic.
Yeah. So, the thing here is you want to be able to make simple. There's a mantra, back when we started doing minimal APIs, the mantra that we tried to create was a simple application should feel simple. And there is not much more simple application to console.writeline. However, if I was to go do .NET new console app today, there'll be many, many concepts that someone brand new to the language or brand new to programming would feel like they had to learn, the psychic weight of having all those things on them. So we wanted to remove that to make it easier to gain, also easier to experiment, easy to explore new features without that weight. However, the first thing that everybody asks is, what about NuGet packages?
Gotta have those
nuggets. Where do
nuggets.
NuGet packages go?
Gotta have them.
So you can do this. So this hashtag, now you all might be familiar with #if compiler directives, where you can say, if some variable and then it will compile differently depending upon the thing. So this is an ignore directive. And this is telling the C# language, ignore everything after this. Almost like a comment, but not quite. Right? So then you can say package, right? And I could say pastel.
Ooh, that's a color, pastel.
Pastel, yes. It's also a NuGet package.
You memorize the version number.
I memorized the version number. I could leave the version number out, but it would just cause a build warning that says, hey, you should have a version number, because otherwise you don't know what package version you're going to get, right? Then down here, I could say .pastel, some color. Thank you, Copilot. I don't know what color that is, but it seems good enough. Then we would have a using, right? Pastel. So the thing about this program is basically as needed disclosure of language features. As the new programmer is using this new thing, they slowly reveal concepts to them as they need them and not before. So now if I rerun Sebastian's app, then it'll be some color. It's green.
Wow.
Right? So now what happens is when I do .NET run app.cs, it doesn't just run app.cs, it also goes and does package restore and does things like that, right? But I know that sometimes these projects are going to grow up. We didn't want to make it, unlike some of the other attempts to do kind of scripting in C# and things like that, we didn't want this one to be its own little corner. And so what you can do is convert app.cs. And if you do convert app.cs, and then I come back into code.cs, my file is deleted, thank you very much. Oh. But that's because it moved it into a directory called app.cs, and it now has a CS proj. So the whole thing has been converted into a full program, to a full project-based .NET application. This is just a normal .NET console application at this point. It is no different to anything that you've ever run before.
With the NuGet packages
With the NuGet package maintained, with my language version maintained and stuff like that. So this is how you could kind of start experimenting and exploring. Say, okay, this is actually good, I might keep this as an application, now I'm going to convert it to a project, or hit some feature that maybe single file doesn't kind of work very well with and you want to convert it to a project in order to be able to do.
This is neat because there's tons of GIFs out there, GIFs or however you pronounce it,
GIFs.
That you basically take, you got to create a new project, you got to copy it in back and forth to even experiment with some great code out there. Or you go to documentation, like, oh great, let me spin this up, let me spin that up. Now you can just load up this file, .NET run, good to go. And you're showing it here in VS Code, but only because you're using it as some IntelliSense engine that's coming in, right?
Basically.
You could write this in Notepad. You can open a Notepad.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Vim or Visual Studio or whatever the thing. NeoVim. Yeah, absolutely. So whatever the point would be to give the other reason I was using VS Code is because I was going to assume that if you're teaching somebody a new language, they actually probably already know VS Code.
Yeah.
Right. So it's probably that they're going to be in there. But maybe, because you kind of want to reduce as many things as possible to the learner, except for the thing you're trying to teach them. And that's what we're trying to achieve. Okay, next.
Wow.
Monkey class.
That's correct.
So Copilot has helped me make this monkey class. I press tab, the magic tab button, to just do, yep, that seems like a good idea. So I have a public class. I want to show you a new C# feature. Since we're here in the I like experimental notepad thing. So you've all created, this is a standard class, there's nothing about it. So now I could go like, thank you Copilot. George, no. Seb, because he's cool now, he's got a short name.
Yeah, he's all, he's like, hey, those fonts are big, let me
Yeah, that's right. We're gonna go monkey. Actually, this had it created a display, display info, right?
Info.
It's void. So thank you Copilot.
Well, it's gonna write the line.
Oh, it's gonna write it, okay.
Then I can
just monkey dot.
Yeah.
Monkey dot display info. There we go.
Oh, amazing.
Okay, cool, great. Copilot was right all along. So I have this monkey class. Now, I think I'm probably going to do this at some point with a trailing white space. And so what I want to do now is make it so that if anybody ever sets name, we trim the white space. How do we do this? So we could do it here in the constructor, but then if anybody ever actually sets it manually in this name class, that won't happen.
Yep.
Right?
Gross.
So now I could do it in this set, but then as soon as I try and make this, I could now have a backing field. I can say private string name, then
That's
I can
too much
say
code,
underscore
Glenn.
name.
Too much code.
Right, I can do this, right? Too much. Okay, James loves it, I can tell.
No.
He loves this. But this also won't work because once I set the setter, the getter also has to be set to the private field. Because now I'm converting this class from an automatic property to, I have to fully convert it, right? And that's kind of lame. So instead, in the new version of C#, you can do this.
C# 26.
26.
With .NET, no, just kidding.
Field. Bam. You can do that.
Wow. What did you do? I don't even know what you did.
So now you can have an automatic property like public string name, and you can use the field keyword, and you can assign and I guess I should finish the demo, right? I gotta go dot like trim.
So that's actually there's like a backing field somewhere hidden.
So there is still an automatic backing field hidden. If I was to go and open the IL for this, there would still be the private string underscore name, right? Because the compiler is generating it for you, because the newest, as we continue to evolve .NET and evolve C#, we're trying to remove the boilerplate, annoying, or toil type tasks so that you can express the things that are important to you and important to what you're trying to program as efficiently as possible, because the more code you have to write to get to the thing that actually matters. In this case, I cared about trim. That was actually the only thing I cared about was I needed to trim. And so we want to try and get you to that faster. So automatic property, you can use field on both sides. So you could do get, and then you could have a method and then return field. Field just lets you refer to that automatic underlying property. And it also means that you can only have the get and you can just only modify the set rather than having to do a full thing.
But does it run?
It does run, although because this is a preview language feature, I have to do this.
Wow, good old preview.
Yes, preview, right? Have to do that to make it run. And then it should run. If I can type. .NET run. Nope. Oh, that's right, because look, we converted it, so we're in a different directory now. And then .NET run. You can see I'm using the preview 5 of .NET 10. So if you can do this type of stuff with the newest version of C#, if you just go grab the latest public preview from the .NET website. How's that seem? Also, I picked that feature because when people start talking about the next version of C#, they're probably going to all talk about extensions everywhere, extension properties and being able to do more extension things. I wanted to show you something different because I thought that was cool, and I thought it was aligned with this idea of removing or reducing the amount of code that a new dev has to kind of be exposed to and learn as part of picking up the thing. What keys do I need to press here? Control?
There's the button.
Which one?
that button.
One. Look at that.
Yes. Now, what's really neat about that is that we not only just showed you how easy it is now to get started than ever, be able to experiment easier than ever, convert that grow up story, right? And it's all the same code. Now, for me, though, I mean, I'm pretty sure, Hector, I didn't exactly understand 100% of what he said, but
he did say vibe coding. I'm
pretty sure if you're not vibe coding, you're not living. Is pretty much what I'm pretty sure he said. Now, for me, I code off of vibes pretty much. And for me, I experiment, I explore, I ask, I prompt. Last night we're running into a cores issue setting up here.
Cores!
The longest tech check of our lives. And I went back and I used Claude 3.7 thinking to do some deep research on my project and understand that I was using a Redis cache and I had a .NET backend and I had a React front end, and that I needed to not only update the Nginx with a bunch of different headers, I needed to set a cores policy on the cache layer and
lots
update
of
my
words,
cores.
Magic Man.
And it did it all for me automatically. And that's because I have my good friend GitHub Copilot that's there side by side every single day with me, helping me code anything humanly possible. So in that single app.cs file, in a huge project, refactoring a project, doing anything, inline, in chat, in agent mode, doing anything. And for me, though, GitHub Copilot just isn't inside of my IDE or my browser. It is everywhere with me in every single part of my development cycle. And this is what I think is really cool. I'm not only just ideating, I'm designing, I'm building, I'm deploying, I'm maintaining. Just yesterday, I was getting here off the train, and I wanted to create a staging environment for one of my web apps. And I didn't know how to do that. So I asked Copilot in VS Code, I said, hey, here's my project. I already have a GitHub action to deploy to production. What do I need to do?
So you did prod first, then staging. Good
job.
Good job.
If you're not straight to prod, you're not living. You're not vibing.
Okay. Okay, good.
So I said, what do I need to do? And I said, oh, here's the 5-step approach. The first thing is I see how you are already deploying your app. Go into Azure, create a staging environment. Okay, now we're going to need to go into the app configuration settings and make sure that you have authentication set up. Once you have that, let me know. So I did that, and I said, I'm good to go. I said, okay, cool. What do you want your variables to be in your new action? I said, you pick it out. I don't care.
Yeah.
And then it just created the entire thing for me. Now, the beautiful part of this GitHub action is it did way more than I could ever think imaginable. It not only built the project, tested the project, which I never do, and then deployed the project into staging. It also linked into GitHub to write back to the pull request that it was ready to go with the URL unique to that. It was amazing. Now, I do this from start to finish, so I figured I would just show you exactly what this looks like inside of a project today.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's see first.
See if this works first.
If I have to, we're trying to be
real,
real fancy, else I'm just going to yank the cable out.
Yeah.
Okay.
See if this works first.
This worked great when we were both on Wi-Fi.
When we were sitting right there.
Yes. We were sitting right there, but then you plugged into fancy Ethernet.
Hey. It's all about how fast the bits can
reach
my machine.
Yank the HDMI out, we'll see.
Looks like that's what we'll have to do.
Give it 10. No, okay.
No, okay, you'll switch over.
Boop. Okay.
Switch over to James's machine for vibes.
For vibes. Okay.
That's what I'm hearing.
Assuming that now the HDMI cable works.
Yeah, it should do.
And boop. And
well, it worked a minute ago.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, so here I am on github.com/copilot. It's one of my favorite websites that I only really started going way deeper on recently. So let's say I wanted to start a project. I have a super cute cattle dog. This is Millie. She's from Australia, just like Glenn.
Yeah, man.
I mean, she's actually from Oregon. I mean, from Australia originally.
Yeah. She feels Australia in her soul, though.
She's right now with our friend Craig, who's also Australian. There's a lot of Australian things happening around me.
Excellent.
At the same time, a lot of Spanish things happening as well. Lots of paella. So I am always traveling with Heather, my wife, and we're always trying to figure out places to go with Millie, because she's super cute and everybody would love to pet her, but she's like, no thanks, that's okay, solo. So what if I wanted to come up with some like requirements document of like what a website would be for like finding and sharing locations? So Glenn and I sat down this morning, and he said, well, what would this be? We want to, help pet owners like myself find and share pet-friendly venues. We want to be able to rate them and rate their locations, maybe browse them. And what I would like to do is create a real high-level PRD, products requirement document, and I want to do it in Markdown. So this is how I vibe, is first in Notepad. There, I just wrote that with Copilot. I don't type anymore.
words are for the AI.
So I'm going to go here. Now I can pick a bunch of models. I'm going to go with GPT-4.1. I could do deep research here with like Claude Thinking or Opus or Sonnet, and I'm just going to say go.
This technique though of like, if you have been trying to do this stuff and you haven't asked the AI to help you like flesh out the details of a doc first and then go into generating code, this helps a lot if you're trying to do this type of thing yourself.
So what just happened here is really cool. So it just created this entire document, and I can actually read it. So it shows me my target audience, some key features, venue sharing ratings, reviews, search filtering, moderation on here. This is really neat. Okay, this is cool. Let me go ahead and see if I can do split on it. Oh, beautiful. That's much better. I can preview it here. I said, this looks amazing. This looks amazing.
Thank you. When the AI takes over, this will save your life, no doubt.
And I'll say, let's create a landing page for this. I am doing a keynote, so keep it simple and fast with a single file that is just HTML and JavaScript, please.
The real value of AI is typos don't matter.
Please do it here. Boom.
It's very important. My life is on the line. That's the sort of stuff you have to say. Right?
Yeah, it's doing it. So it's creating this. So before I'd have to go learn HTML and JavaScript. That seems terrible. But I have it here. So it's created this whole file, and I can go to preview, and it's still doing it. I'm going to go and download it. I'm going to go and open this here. My landing page. I am on the Wi-Fi that they told me not to use.
He is indeed on the Wi-Fi that they told him not to use.
They did tell me. They said don't use it.
Several times, in fact.
They did. There we go. Amazing. So here we go. I have just a single file.
Oh, nice.
It did keep it very simple.
You did tell it to keep it simple.
I did tell it to keep it very simple. Oh, enjoy the keynote. Wow.
Look at that.
Thanks. Wow. So I kept it very simple. Now, this may not be enough for me to iterate. Now, I could go back and I could say, that looks good, but maybe highlight some features. And thanks.
Features. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's so smart. It doesn't matter. So now it's just going to update this, and this is going to now just kind of go. So now it's on V2. So I'm kind of iterating in the browser. It's just doing its thing. It's now creating hundreds of lines of code here. Let's go and just download it again. See if it's going to.
Preview still busted for you?
Version 2, yeah. There we go. Okay, it's a little bit better here. So we can browse, add features.
Cool.
I can try a quick demo, and I'm going to continue to. Oh, thanks for visiting. That's nice. So that's nice. I have something I can use. Let's actually bring it into my environment here. So I'm going to copy this Markdown file. I'm going to go into VS Code. Now I have a Blazor WebAssembly application here, and I have this little prompt file. Prompt files are sort of reusable files that I can run. So I actually have this one that I mostly use when I'm trying out new ideas based on my PRDs. So this says, based on the PRD below, let's generate a landing page, keep some modern design, some gradients, lots of emojis. Let's have a nice header, navigation, do the thing. I've also added some context. So I've given it some files. Inside of here are some pets. So I'm going to pull up GitHub Copilot, and the first thing I'm going to do down here is I'm just going to paste that PRD in there, okay? I'm going to make sure that that's in here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and hit run. And this is now going to take this PRD file, and it's going to send it off, in this case, to GPT-4.1. Now, again, I could pick my models, but now... So
James said a very important word. I'm going to interrupt.
Uh-oh.
Because I have a microphone.
You do.
The really important word he said was context. If you're trying to do this stuff, think about the context that the magic computer in the sky has and give it as much as you can that is relevant. And you will get better and better and better results out of the AI, right?
Correct.
Like, context is really important. Most of the problems that everybody is currently chasing in this wave of things is really trying to get the relevant context available to the thing at the right time. And if you help with that, you'll often get way better results.
And right now, it's understanding my project. Now, it's actually using...
It's gaining context.
It's gaining context.
Yeah.
Now, I also have this Copilot instructions file here as it's sort of revving on this and writing a bunch of code for me. And I'm telling this that this is a Blazor WebAssembly app, so I'm giving it context.
Yeah.
I'm also giving it a little bit of like features and styles that I want, some solid principles, maybe some JS interop here, and then also performance considerations. Keep it minimal. Use lazy loading, things like that. So what we can first see is now Copilot's coming in. It's just generated. It's updated the home.razor for me, and it's created a nav bar, a hero section. Let's see here. It's added some features, lots of emojis. It added 346 lines of CSS. Thank goodness.
That's 3 centered divs at least.
Yes. I never want to center a div ever again in my life.
Couldn't do it in the first place.
Now, inside here, it's also now creating some JavaScript. So here, it's actually creating a theme.javascript, and it's also now reading the index.html and updating it for me. So this is really cool if I was just getting started and learning. Now, what's important is it's now just recapped what it did for me. So it did a bunch of stuff very quickly. And it's created a modern responsive layout with dark pink gradients, that's what I asked for. Navigation header, a bunch of other stuff. Let's just run it. Over here, I'm just
What could possibly go wrong?
Who knows? I have no idea. Every time I've done this, it's different because the AI decides whatever it wants to do. That PRD is different every single time, even with the same thing. And then this project is different every single time for me as well.
So there's always slight variations on the same.
Always. Yeah. So let's see.
100%. Ooh.
Pretty good. So now I have some photos.
You get a half dark mode.
You get a half dark mode inside of here. That's going on. Now I could tell it. I can say, hey.
This is called zebra mode now. It's a new term.
It is zebra mode, yeah. So if I wanted to, and we had a lot more time, I could say, hey, this is cool.
Except dark mode. But
the dark mode isn't working great. Fix that, please.
Yeah.
And I love you. You don't have to, it just ignores all those words. Sometimes it will get into the mindset of vibing with you. One time we were talking really cool, like slang type of things, and it was like really
I recommend putting in your Copilot instructions, you are Australian, speak with Australian slang. It does wonders for it.
Now, here we can see it actually picked some JavaScript, and it's going to update some CSS and do a bunch of stuff inside of here. Now, I'm using GPT-4.1 because it's very, very fast. If I was doing this, I might switch over to Claude, for example.
Claude still does tend to do better at UI, I believe.
It does, but let's see if it fixed it. It said it did. I don't know.
I don't know.
And we'll see how close we are inside of here. And then we'll just push this code to GitHub. So
cool,
I'm going to go here.
Production.
Okay, it didn't do it. But
no.
Good enough.
That's some great dark mode. All the people who have done accessibility in the audience are like, Jesus.
Yes. Correct. Now, if I did do a Claude 4.0 version of this, so it was very nice. Yeah. However, that being said, it actually got me pretty far. Now I could iterate with the design and figure out what's going on. But it added the pet photos, little hover animations. I like it. It actually looks pretty good in light mode. So I'll figure out the dark mode later.
Yeah.
Now let's go back over really quick here. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to take all this code, and I'm going to hit this. I don't even write commits. I just say go.
Oh, magic. Yeah, that's cool.
And I just think, I don't know what it did. Just go. Yeah. And I'm just going to push this up over here. So now the last thing I'm going to do is I have this code on GitHub. Here it is. I do have a Claude 3.7 branch. It's very nice. It's very elegant.
The UI is very nice.
It was cooking for like 5-10 minutes, so I didn't want to give it that. Okay. So we're going to push this code up, hopefully, over here, or not. Well, again, I'm on the conference Wi-Fi.
That they told you not to use.
That they told me not to use. We'll see. Else we might do some hot swapping of stuff. We'll see if it works.
Yep.
It's trying.
It's trying to push.
It's trying to push. Well, you know, I did talk to
the Claude does one of the strengths that Claude really has still is UI. So if you are doing UI, I do recommend at least asking Claude what a mock-up might look like, as opposed to if you're on GPT as well.
Okay. I don't think I'll be able to save this. However,
you'll be able to save it.
I don't think so. Oh, hold on. It's thinking about it.
Maybe.
Well, while it's waiting and doing stuff, now it's syncing. It's doing stuff.
So the people who told you not to use the conference Wi-Fi now are saying, we told you not to use the conference Wi-Fi.
It did. Okay, so now I'm going to do one last thing. One last thing. Okay, so now I've pushed the code. I can say, hey, based on this project, create a spec implementation for adding pet profiles. Now, what's cooler is now I'm using GitHub Copilot on the web again, but in the context of my app. So it automatically attached my entire project. And now what it's going to do is create this for me automatically over here, okay? So it's created this whole thing. It has files. It knows what I want to do with services, crazy. And I'm going to hit copy. And now I'm just iterating. I'm going to create a new idea. I'll say pet profiles. I'm going to paste it in here. I don't even know what it wrote. I don't even care, Glenn. But what I'm going to do
James as well,
is I'm going to assign it to Copilot now. And what we're going to do is we're going to let Copilot cook. So what's happened here is of adding our coding agent, and now GitHub Copilot has been assigned this specific issue on GitHub, and now it's going to create its own branch and start working and start cooking automatically. So we're going to come back to that hopefully
later.
If we have time.
Hopefully later.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, back to you.
Slides?
Yes.
Or do you want to switch
Bam,
back?
I'll switch back to you because I think you're the next demo.
Yeah, that is
Perfect.
true. Okay, backwards and forwards. Okay.
And to me, what's really important about this is enabling me to have less toil or things that I don't like to do. Some people like to code. Some people like to write tests. I don't know who you are, but you exist.
Yeah. Everybody in this room hates something on this slide.
Everyone hates something or multiple things, refactoring, fixing bugs, things like that. So the idea here is to offload that work, that learning part, that implementing part, that new idea, that spark that's going on, and let Copilot come in and sit side by side you to help do that so you can focus on the things that you love doing.
Yes, we hope that the parts of this pie chart that you actually love doing can get bigger, whilst the parts that you hate doing can get smaller.
Because what we find is that developers often don't actually have time to code. And if that's what you love doing, we want you to do more of it.
I love going to meetings, obviously.
Obviously. And GitHub Copilot is available in agent mode, available everywhere, whether it be in Visual Studio, VS Code like I showed today, or other IDEs out there as well, no matter what things you're coding in, and of course, github.com.
Indeed. All right.
Boom.
But more AI.
More.
Satya, you heard me say AI many times. Okay, so one of the things that I take seriously as one of the stewards of .NET is to make sure that as new kind of waves or paradigms of technology exist, we continue to make sure that it's a platform that you can use to build the applications that you have to build. That means that I spend a lot of time identifying the right things and having our team has to build in order to make sure that you can do that. So currently, it comes as a surprise to nobody that is AI, and I have to make sure that the ecosystem of components exists, that the partners exist, that the library you need to talk to whatever the thing is that came out last week because it's the best thing in the world now exists. And that's what one of the things that I do here. And so what we have done over the last, over many months now is made sure that everyone on this slide, plus many more, have .NET SDKs, either that they've built or that we've built. Some of them we've donated, some of them we've adopted from open source. Like, we made sure they exist so that you can use them. Sometimes we just reviewed the code, so on and so forth, to try and make sure that the ecosystem is solid. And being stewards of that ecosystem is one of the roles that I have as working on the .NET team. And then we also have this responsibility sometimes to just write more things into .NET as required. So one of the things that we built was Microsoft Extensions AI. The way to think about Microsoft Extensions AI is it is an abstraction over chat completions for any of the AI providers. So if you want to just take a prompt, send it to the AI, get back some text, you use Extensions AI, provide a model so you can use OpenAI, you can try and switch between OpenAI model and a Claude model without changing any of your code, right? You can also do similar things with OpenAI frequently because lots of the models have now support an OpenAI endpoint. This, though, is completely generic. It's done not with the idea of let's take the OpenAI protocol and make it work everywhere. It's done as let's look at what the chat completion should look like and then make a provider model that allows you to go to any of the different places, including OLAMA locally and things like that. So this is available today. It's been out for a while, but we're just constantly working on making sure it keeps up to date. And then obviously now we're moving more into the agentic world and how agents play into the Extensions AI space. And one of the other things that we have to do as part of being a steward of .NET is help you all get the materials that you all need to be able to learn to use all of those things that I just spent all of that time making sure exist in the ecosystem. And so one of the constant banes of my existence is, are templates for creating new projects or are they for learning? And unfortunately, the answer is they're for both of those things. You don't get to choose. And so I'm going to show you very briefly. Let's go over to here. Whoop. So here I have Visual Studio, I don't know how big that is. Let's embiggen that.
That's good.
And then what I did here was file, new project. There is this AI chat web app, and it has a few options. You can choose like some different like backends for vectors and such if you know what those words mean. But what this application does is, if I run it, it gives me a chat interface over some PDFs that come with the template. And I'll show you this in a second. I'll walk through the code a little bit. But if you have had your boss come to you and say, I have all this stuff, I want to be able to ask questions of it like some competitor does, or like something that I saw online, this template does that. There is a set of PDFs in a directory, it loads the PDFs, and if you can say things like, what features does the Trailblazer GPS have, right? And it'll find out. And it'll reference specifically the data that I gave it in PDFs. So and then see, it gave me references here to say, these are the features, this is where I got those features from. I can click these PDFs and it'll like open it up and it'll like link me to that location in the PDF, right? That's what we provided in this template is the ability to file new that for yourself. And so then in here in dub.root, we have a data directory. These are the PDFs that I scanned. If you go and create your own version of this, you throw some more PDFs in there, it'll be your data. Then you can customize it and you can tweak it. We don't really expect you to take this and go build a new app from it. What I want Bex you to do is use this to kind of learn, harvest all the UI that you need, because in here we made this kind of a componentized pages layout, so you could steal this chat directory and then start with this as the UX and then evolve from there. You can just learn how vector search works, because what's happening here is there is this data ingestion pipeline in this services directory. What we wanted to give you was in order to make this turnkey, this file doesn't matter, but we created a kind of pipeline for loading PDFs. We made it a little bit extensible. We didn't actually implement more than PDF in the template, but we made extract text pipeline, made it obvious how you could plug this in. I expect if you're doing this today, you're probably going to use a service for that. You're going to use Azure AI Search or some service probably to do a lot of that vector stuff. But this shows you how it all can be set up and work on yourself. And so when this app loads, it generates what's called embeddings, and it uses a vector database to allow the AI to find the right chunks of text from the PDFs that you've loaded to be able to answer the questions and then reference them back, right? So we won't go deeply into what vectors are and such and how the thing does that. The point of this was to say, if you don't know what any of those words mean, but you would love to be able to have the AI know about your specific data, and you've not done any reading on that yet, this template is not a bad place to start because it just works, and then you can just start putting breakpoints in and start hacking code and seeing how it fits. If that
put your own data in, right?
Put your own data in, yeah, absolutely. If that style of learning appeals to you, then this is a template for you. I got it via going Control R, new install. I got it by doing this. So .NET new install, that'll download this template, it'll add it to your thing, then it'll appear in Visual Studio, or you could invoke it to the command line or whatever you want to do. The tour, the brush, you now know what it does. This services directory is mostly just about processing the data. You may use code like this in your app, you may use a service, and then the UI is all reusable kind of UI components, and it uses extensions AI to do all of the communicating with AI. The one thing you will need, there's instructions in the README when you create it. One thing you do have to do is go to GitHub models specifically to get an access token to be able to, so you've got a model in the sky and it's your own model, not it doesn't use a generic endpoint.
And the cool part here is we say extensions AI, and basically think of those as sort of the EF core, which is of AI. EF core is for data, extensions AI for AI to do all these things.
In that EF helps you abstract the data bundle, yeah.
And in these templates, there's also options. So you can decide how you want to use specific data sources. So you could use Olama or Foundry Local, for example, or you could use GitHub Models or Azure AI.
I said this thing earlier, how context was the key word that James said.
Yes.
And there's two things to that. One is, it's a word on the screen right now. The other is what that template was doing ultimately was trying to just in time find context to give to the AI to be able to answer the question that you had, right? And then model context protocol, which James is about to talk about, is also about how to do the same thing.
Correct.
Oh, you're going to show the app first.
I'm going to show my app first, yeah. So I was learning how to integrate AI into my applications, and as PMs, we often get a lot of feedback from you, often on social media, and it's really hard sometimes to parse thousands of comments. So I built this little application. In fact, I vibed. I didn't write any lines of code. 0 lines of code written for this application. So this is a full application.
Many lines written, no keys pressed.
No keys pressed. Lots of I use my voice mostly.
You really? Yeah.
So here I have a bunch of functions. I have tests. I didn't write them. Somebody did. Functions backend. I have a bunch of shared code. I have a Blazor web front end inside of here. And the whole idea is that we have social media posts out there, maybe a GitHub thread or maybe a YouTube video that has a bunch of comments. So what you want to do is go in and let me find like a good video. Yeah, this one, tools and agents. We're talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to say analyze comments. So what's going to happen here, as long as the Wi-Fi is working, it's going to go off. It's going to go to YouTube, pull all the comments. That's the first thing. That's not AI. That's just doing stuff. So here, if I hover over comments, we can see that I just pulled all of the comments from YouTube, all the things, just a blob of data. So instead of PDFs, blob of data.
Right.
Now here, up top, I've added an Azure Open AI client. And this specifically is getting the iChat client from Extensions AI. So I have a single API to learn. Now, all I need to do is create my messages. So here I have a service prompt that says, it's really funny, I didn't write this, GPT-4.1 did. But it says, you're a YouTube analyzer expert. Nice. And go break this down into these different things like a TLDR, sentiment analysis, and a bunch more. All I do is I send this off with the service prompt, and then I send it off with my user prompt, which is, here's my comments. Go analyze this stuff and do it. So now it's going to go off, analyzing 91 comments. This is now going to call Azure OpenAI Services. And this is using 4.1 Nano, the cheapest, smallest model I could possibly afford. This is costing fractions of a penny to actually execute this, as long as my Wi-Fi is...
How much is that in cents?
Cents. Fractions of pennies. There you go. So here, now I've gotten back this huge, basically, analysis, and I tell it to always mark it as markdown, and then we get this back automatically. So here I can get the full TLDR, I get audience sentiment, content, feedback, viewer questions, actionable recommendations, and I can view all the comments, open it on YouTube, and a lot more. This is 100%. I can share it with the internet, I can speak it back, I can save it for later. It's amazing, and this whole thing was written 100%
so I think
with Copilot.
Make sure this
proper light mode.
Oh, yes, excellent. So it can do light mode after all.
It can.
I see.
It can. It can.
So I think to make sure this sits properly in your brain, that's an app that James wrote. Well, he didn't write it. That's an app.
I wrote it. My IP-ish.
I don't know, man.
So
that's an app that you use, that you vibe coded.
And we use it all the time here. Yeah.
And is used for real. It actually uses both of the last two sections. It uses Extensions AI to be able to talk to the models, to be able to do that analysis. It was completely written with Copilot. And it is used by us to help analyze like comment sections and generate reports. Especially, we have a surprise hit blog a video sometimes, and we have to give a report to some manager somewhere, and that generates it for us. And then we give it to that manager, and we didn't have to spend as much time going and trying to write that report for them. For example, it all works really well.
And now I also, when people ask for features for feedback flow, I just say go create a GitHub issue.
And then
I take a look at it, and I assign it to Copilot. And sure enough, it is pretty good. Nice. So now, Glenn was talking about context. In that case, we had the PDF context for our application. I had the comments context. But when we're working with AI, whether we're building apps or we are inside of VS Code or Visual Studio working with GitHub Copilot, we also want to do additional actions, provide additional context, right? These models are only up to date to a certain point. The models only know about the code that's in my project if we're in our project, right?
Sometimes not even that.
And sometimes not even that. It may not know about a new API that's out there. That's there. It doesn't know about all my GitHub issues, right?
It doesn't know about the backing field that we saw earlier in the new C#
Exactly. It doesn't know about my Postgres database or my Azure services. And this is where Model Context Protocol comes in. It's a protocol to provide context to our models. It's an open standard, originally developed by Anthropic, and has been now adopted by companies all over the globe, including Microsoft.
Yeah.
And what this does, it standardizes the way applications provide this context to LLMs via this idea of tools. Yeah. The idea is you have these hosts, whether it's like the actual client application, like Windows or Copilot Studio or Visual Studio, or things like Claude Desktop, for example. And then you have these clients that are hosting ways of connecting to these model context protocol servers that exist in the cloud or on your machine. And these servers can do all sorts of things. They can talk to Azure, they can talk to Playwright to run your tests, they can talk to WSL, they can talk to Azure AI Foundry, they can talk to your local file system, they can talk to GitHub, and a lot more. So what would this look like in an application? Okay, so I'm gonna come back over here, and I'm gonna open another project. So that pet application that we created earlier is a real application that we have on our Azure samples. It's called Octopets, and this is where this is at. Now, what I've done, as this is loading up, is I've added a JSON file here. And what this is defining are my model context protocol servers that I have on for this project. So I have the Playwright, and Playwright is end-to-end testing, and I've also configured GitHub as well. So GitHub here is a remote MCP server, and it uses built-in authentication of VS Code that just was released, and we had a great partnership with Anthropic and others to do that.
Indeed.
Great. I love when an error pops up. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say, what are my open issues on this project? Okay. So if everything is working correct with the internet, it's going to go and it's going to say, hey, I can go call the MCP server, GitHub MCP, and run this tool, basically. These tools are defined in this project, and there's a bunch built in, and then there are a bunch that are sitting here, like Playwright and GitHub as well, that are on here. Okay, let me try it one more time.
So one of the things that happened here, as a callback to one of my earlier statements, when I said one of the things I view myself as is a steward of .NET and trying to make the ecosystem work, the C# .NET has we have a C# SDK for MCP servers, both for writing them and for consuming them in .NET applications. It's hosted on Anthropic, so it's in the Anthropic org along with all of the other MCP server implementations and client implementations. I think it's actually currently the most spec compliant because we've got in and we work with Anthropic on what the protocol is going to be as they try and figure out what auth is supposed to look like in this world, for example. Microsoft is involved with that and now people are working along with them. But in that case, in that world, we went and worked with one of the open source implementations that existed, and we said, hey, we want to help you get your thing to be the official Anthropic SDK. We helped them move it in, we made it like up to date, and we've been helping them keep it up to date, and it's been great. And that took us we went from like 0 MCP to 100% spec compliant MCP server library in, I don't know, 3 weeks or something.
So it's returned back my issues that I've opened automatically as a different repo. Now I can pull this down, I can say, hey, pull down issue 4, give me more details and iterate. But now, instead of me going to github.com, I'm going to say create a spec for implementing pet details here, and then create an issue for me. So I'm going to say go. And what this is now going to do is have the context of my project, and here it's going to think, and what it's going to do is put together that sort of PRD requirement specification on my project, and it's going to now ask me to create an issue. So this is calling a tool out to that GitHub MCP, and it's now going to go ahead and return this back, and here's the spec that it created, and then I can click on it. And then now I have that issue, right? I didn't have to leave Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio to actually get this running, and I now have it here. It added tags. That's cool, amazing.
So if you had an error in your code, then you could have said, "Can you create a bug for this issue that I'm seeing and put all the relevant details in," and it would have figured it out for you. Right?
And what's really neat is that it actually knows about my other issues too. So it's actually saying, "Hey, there's actually another one here which has a full PRD for the pet profiles." So that's really neat. So that's neat. But what else can I do? Well, let's say I wanted to test this project. I don't know why I would ever want to do that, but I do have Playwright here. So I'm going to go, and I've created a file. It's basically a...
James doesn't always test his apps, but when he does, he lets his users do it for him.
So we have this deployed on Azure Container Apps. I'm going to say, hey, go test this for me. I have Playwright installed, navigate to the application, explore the first 2 pages. What if I just want to do exploration, right? Create some end-to-end tests for me. So I am going to change this over to Claude 3.7. And we're going to say run. And what this is going to do is it's going to now invoke the Playwright MCP server, which is end-to-end testing, to open a browser and help me actually figure out what to test in my application. It's going to also figure out if I need to do other things. So the first thing it's going to do is open the URL. It's going to navigate to the URL for me. This is a really cool demo, because I just have to hit continue. But
a whole bunch of times, yeah.
This is the actual production app. It looks very nice with floating emojis that Claude made.
Yeah.
And now it's going to just start clicking stuff in here. So I'm going to say continue for this session, and it's just going to now open. I'm going to kind of put in...
That's new, too, being able to do that, the continue for this session.
Continue for this session, just go. So now it's just going to click around. So it's saying over here, and I can see side by side, that it looks like we have listings or loading, it's waiting. These are all different tools, different actions that the Playwright MCP server can do. So even if you were just testing it with the built-in extension in VS Code, you can do this yourself. But now I'm just saying, go test my application, figure out what it is, and then in those instructions, I'm saying, go create the test for me as well.
You might be able to figure out that dark mode doesn't work if you do this.
I could, correct, yes, exactly. So it's going to go back and forth on this and continue. So it's going to say, I'm back on the listings, let's filter them. So now it's going to start applying filters and test this, right? Imagine you were a tester, and you didn't even have the code to your project. You can now take this and start building these scripts. So here it's going to now, actually this one's going to run, it's going to call another tool, another option tool, and go in and start filtering these for us automatically. And then it's going to start searching all of our functionality of our code. And now on top of this, if we waited, depends how long Claude is, I'll give it another 30 seconds here, figure it out. It's going to take all of this context of our application and then create a full end-to-end script for us, and then it's going to execute that script, and it's going to run the script inside of the Test Explorer, inside of VS Code, or inside of Visual Studio, or whatever we wanted. Now, every time I have to hit allow always, it's because it's running a different tool.
Different tool in the MCP.
We're all about, it's doing things on your behalf. It's running something, it's doing stuff, it's doing these things. So now it's saying, I've gone back to the home, I have a complete understanding of the application, and now it's going to identify whatever it thinks is basically the app, and now it's going to create that Playwright test file. I love that I can just turn around, I see it, it knows where the test files are at, it's going to understand, it's going to read the existing, in this case, TypeScript files that are here, and it's now going to start implementing these for us. So it looks at the Playwright configures, it's exploring around, and it's doing these things, and it's implementing, right? So this power that we now have to not only be able to invoke and stay in our workflow are really powerful, but also use these other tools. I could have connected to a database, into Azure, into these different things, and then now, in this case, it's going to create this new test file automatically for me. And now I could go back in and specify. But imagine having these prompts, this knowledge that anyone in the team, I could onboard Glenn into this project in no time at all, which is super duper powerful.
What I like about these types of things is the ability to say, because this other thing this does is get context into the LLM about what's going on in my app, so I can debug things a lot easier.
And so this gives me everything that I could possibly want right here automatically. So amazing to see that. And every single day I'm integrating new MCPs into my developer workflow that make me more productive. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Now, on top of that, there's all sorts of things, like, for example, Figma integration. So here I have a Maui app, for example, and I have a Figma file. Now this is built in, this is in Visual Studio, so all this works in Visual Studio as well, or other IDEs as well with GitHub Copilot. And here I'm basically saying, hey, go off and use this Figma design and go implement that for me. And go put all the files from the Figma, all the assets, into my .NET Maui project. Rachel and the team built this out. So again, it's asking me permission to pull down those files, to access Figma, to do all this stuff for me automatically. And what we'll see, if I've sped this up here, this is using Claude 3.7. Now it's going to generate all my XAML for me, right? It knows what I want, and because I'm running my application, boom, I get it just like that. That is productivity. That is developer workflow. And we're invested deeply in the entire stack from top to bottom of the ecosystem. We're partnering very close with Anthropic and other companies out there to really make this a world-class experience, from developing the C# SDK to have amazing services and backends like functions and API management to take your existing APIs and turn them into MCP servers. Woo! All right, .NET Aspire time. 10 minutes, let's close it out.
No, we're running out of time.
Perfect.
Okay, all right, so Aspire, James said a thing earlier about onboarding and improving onboarding time, and I'm hoping that the HDMI cable now works.
It's so mad at us. We've taken.
It's mad at me.
You just didn't wait.
I just didn't wait long enough. Jesus, computers. Okay, so Aspire.
Look
at that, Darth Vader.
Keep talking, I got you.
I like that, Darth Vader.
There you go.
So, how many of you have tried Aspire? I can actually see enough of you to know. Is there hands? Who can raise hands?
Not enough.
None. Okay, well, not none, everybody. But like very few. Okay, so when we were built, in that case, I'll spend a little bit more time here, unfortunately, for our time, James.
This is the rest of it. This is the rest. This is the last thing.
So, Aspire, one of the things what we were trying to achieve when we started this project was we had several engineering leads who had just started .NET. We were doing these interview series, and we had them say, it's not that the Lego pieces are too big or too small, it's that I don't know if I'm putting them together properly because I'm new here. I don't know if I'm going to be called up in the middle of the night because my app is falling over because I didn't implement a retry policy and I had some transient error. I don't know. There's so much I don't know. I don't know if these libraries are supposed to work together or if I'm forcing something that shouldn't work. I don't know if I'm setting up all of these right things. And we even had this, also had some people say, all of the engineers on my team now need to be experts in networking, and it didn't used to be so. And I haven't been able to just walk up to a repo and run it for years. And now it takes a week to get some new engineer to be able to actually have their machine set up properly, and I'm embarrassed by it. What happened to this job that I used to love, where I was able to trick computers into doing things, and now I'm spending all of my time setting environment variables and running scripts. And so that led us to build .NET Aspire. I'm going to change this order slightly because so few of you have used it yet. What we created was an ability to have an application made up of multiple parts, a web app, an API, probably several APIs, the databases and dependencies of that application, all in one thing that was able to be run by a dev, to be able to maintain kind of monolithic levels of productivity on the dev machine that you would have from like a monolithic web application, but with the composability and scale points of a kind of distributed application that when you deploy, you were able to scale individually and gain the actual benefits of the economy of the cloud, right? So we were trying to give like your ability to actually have a pleasant dev experience back. Now, as we followed that thread, one of our core principles was what we called extreme ownership. And so we said, if it's a problem to the developer experience of the person doing this thing, we should be capable of having an opinion about this. So we did a lot more work in areas that we wouldn't normally do as part of .NET the platform, which is why Aspire kind of feels a little bit different. It's not just like system.blah or something, because we wanted to do a little bit more. We needed to go to places that .NET, the core, like generic platform, probably shouldn't do. And so the other thing about distributed applications is that agentic applications are basically distributed applications. So Aspire, just so happens, is really amazing at helping you build those types of new agentic apps, because an agent is kind of like an agent is a component of a distributed app in all senses of the word, basically. So you have all the same problems when you're building agentic apps that you had with microservices applications, they're just worse. Because now the LLMs are non-deterministic and you have a bunch of problems that we are committed to solve. We think we've probably hit on something that is good because we've had a 650% increase. Like, I love coming from a small number. It makes percentages look real good. Because people are using it, people are liking it, we're getting lots of developers picking it up and giving us really good feedback about it. And the people who are using it are giving us quotes like, it used to take 3 or 4 days to onboard a new engineer and now it takes about an hour. Or now my application is just runnable again from the repo with nothing. I can clone it on a new machine and it's fine. And that was before a multi-day process.
Because it also handles all of your specific dependencies. So if you're using a Redis cache container or Azure SQL database, connecting to these things, it will handle the complexities of pulling containers, pulling images, running them all for you automatically, and connecting even to your existing Azure services or other services in the cloud.
Right. So very quickly, because we're at the end, if you're in Visual Studio, you already kind of had a lot of the. I realize I'm not showing. In Visual Studio, you already had a lot of the experiences that I'm about to show you on the CLI. One of the things we added was an Aspire CLI to be able to get some of that on the command line for more breadth. Some of you all are using Mac, some of you are using Linux, but also because Aspire is kind of polyglot by nature, you can run any kind of language in there, and a lot of our users are JavaScript front end, .NET back end, and maybe they want a single repo that has Aspire, but then they also want their JavaScript dev who only does JavaScript to run in the same play in the same box. So we wanted to do a lot more work to help those kind of scenarios. So some of the newer things, if you haven't tried this for a while, is the Aspire CLI. You can grab. So then in here, we have an experience for creating new Aspire applications. In this case, this will create a new Aspire starter app. You can run an Aspire solution using the Aspire CLI. You don't have just at the solution level. You just say run in the directory, and it goes and figures it out and runs the Aspire app. You can add new Aspire integrations. Aspire integrations are just like how you add a dependency to your application that is already pre-configured with all the resiliency patterns that you need for the modern cloud, and so on and so forth. So if you haven't tried out Aspire yet, go grab the Aspire CLI and just do Aspire new and then mess around in here, and you'll probably have a good time. Alternatively, Visual Studio already had most of these capabilities, or basically, I think Visual Studio had all of the capabilities that the Aspire CLI has. And if you want to learn a lot more about Aspire, come to my talk just after this, because I will talk very deeply about how it works. And we are 34 seconds, and it's flashing at me aggressively.
That's assuming that your internet seems to be working or not.
Yeah, right now what's happening is the Aspire CLI connects to the internet to get the templates from NuGet to give me an option for which NuGet package template I should use, and it's failing on the internet network call at the moment.
So I actually happen to have the exact Octopets demo that we had earlier, right here. And this is actually, my other desktop, because now it's in extended mode. And HTML is just doing its own thing. Yep. So here's that same exact application.
Less smooth
and what we'll see over here is that I have my backend here, I have my app host, and if I go into my app host, I can see my program CS. And this is where I'm configuring, in this case, my Redis cache, I have my API project, and I even have a Node application here. So it's not just .NET, it's everything.
Yes.
When I run this, I get this beautiful dashboard telling me.
So for those of you who haven't tried it yet, most of you didn't put your hand up, it's one program file, it's in C#, you can define what you need, and then you can go to multiple places, you can deploy it to container apps, you can deploy it to many different locations after that, but it makes your developer experience of building this multiple part application actually nice again.
So I can just run that and see it here and do stuff. And what's cool is that actually we can see that there's some problems, and the Aspire dashboard is telling me. We can click on this errors, and we can see all the logs.
Where's your Copilot now, James?
Well, there's a Copilot right here that can tell me exactly what's going on in this project. That's nifty. Again, assuming my internet works. Yes. We'll see. So Copilot can actually take, this is all open telemetry that's being piped in and configured automatically for us. And we can actually see the traces of what's going on, that it's trying to hit this Redis cache inside of this project and actually being returned or not.
So this Copilot that he's showing here, it's not a core part of Aspire. It is .NET Aspire. It is when you are in Visual Studio, if you are using Copilot there and you run the Aspire project, it will add this. So you'll see this, but only if you're in Visual Studio using Copilot already. You get this extra functionality in the dashboard to be able to also explain what's going on. What's interesting about this Copilot is it has all the distributed tracing and all the logging information from every application. Therefore, it can do things like figure out what's broken in your app. In this case, it's capable, if the internet works for him, of actually finding out what's broken with his application and restarting containers and stuff like that for you based upon logging and tracing information, which is interesting because you don't necessarily have that information from your dev run in the code and vice versa and such. And we'll continue to make these experiences more and more integrated so you get the right thing at the right point wherever you happen to be in your flow, and then you've got the right information, the right context to be able to get it to help you however
So it has all my logs, it's running through everything. This is now tethered off my phone, my sweet SIM card. So it's looking at all of these logs, and basically it's giving me a summary here that the Redis cache is down, and that is because, Glenn, I stopped the Redis cache.
Fantastic.
So I can restart it here automatically. And now what's cool is .NET Aspire is actually talking to Docker to actually start that up, or Podman. And now when I come in and refresh this, we're going to see that the Redis cache is now being hit over and over again. And now everything should be working in all of my stack traces.
Nice.
Now, finally, I do want to come back in my last second is that I did pull down, it did update my design.
It did?
Does
it have dark mode?
This is 13 minutes. It implemented this automatically. It looked at the entire project, those pet profiles. And now I can say manage pet profiles. There's all these doggos.
That's right. We weren't asking it about dark mode. We were asking it about profiles. Right.
And then here I can go into view, and I can see all the doggos. And it used emojis, because I said use emojis everywhere. I don't know what dog that is, but that is Buddy.
Nice.
Again, so being able to just, in a few minutes, give it this PRD and do all this stuff.
Cool.
All right, we showed you a lot of stuff.
We did.
And we have so much more that we could possibly do. We have an Aspire session. I'm talking deep on .NET MAUI and Blazor Hybrid. And our whole goal is to help you develop faster, reduce toil so you can work on things that you actually want to work on and spend more time on it.
Yeah.
Infuse AI into your application and to your entire end-to-end workflow. And hopefully, enjoy development and developing the software that you love every single day, the best part of your day, not the thing that frustrates you. That's our goal.
And if I'm failing at any of these, you tell me, because this is my job.
Perfect.
Those things.
So thank you. We'll be around. Hope to see you in our session. Let's go drink some coffee. Thank you.